Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah, man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is still on assignment, so we done pulled in A.D. Drew. With that being said, welcome to episode 554 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, radio show and podcast, the show that is covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small. From the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics, to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. And as I said, we have the one and only A.D. Drew with us, as well as Charles Bishop. Charles, you're looking swell there today with your all white on. How you doing?
Doing well, Doc. Doing well. Got my morning workout in, and we are doing what we need to do on the health tip. So we're starting to spelt it on down a little bit there.
Yeah, I saw you come by the office, get some information about moving towards figuring out which item you want to use for your questionnaire for your dissertation, which is a fascinating dialogue as we create that exercise and project. But I must admit, your suit was a little big on you. It's a good problem to have. So I'm going to send you over there. I'm going to make sure you're able to cash your next check. Send you over there and get you a sports jacket or two.
Oh, yeah. It's time to head back to the store and resize myself. I done dropped a couple coat sizes. So.
Man, Drew, he had that jacket hanging all over, man. He like your brother. Oh,
yes, indeed.
Shoot, I might need to borrow it. I'm still slimming down. I might be able to wear that one down. Then I'll transition to the next one when I go get my own size. So don't
all
throw
yours, all yours.
With that being said, because Charles know how to buy some clothes now. He them jackets be hidden. Hey, Drew, how you doing today?
Brother, I am doing fine, man. Had to make an unfortunate purchase today. I had to go out and buy another laptop to get me through because actually my laptop is good. The charger for my laptop is bad. And the type of charger I need, you cannot find locally. You have to order it. So with the storms coming through, the earliest I would get a charger would be Sunday. And as much as I don't know which one I rely on more now, my computer or my phone, because either one of them go down. And I realized that today I'm screwed. I went in the closet trying to pull out one of these old computers, and like nah, this ain't gonna work. I got to run out to Best Buy and just find something, and which I got that open box section over there. Okay, yeah. And that's what I did.
Smart. Well, it looks like both of y'all are spending money, so let me make sure your check is available to you and able to cash as well. A.D. Drew, man, y'all find a way to get the money out of my pocket, but I'm not. With that being said, today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THU.
Don't check. I need direct deposit 2 days early.
Most certainly. you like them 2-day deposits in your bank account a little early.
Hey, why you think I was able to go out and get this today?
Yeah. I hear you. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting data analytics. Charles, give us some news of the day before we all get ourselves in trouble.
Yeah, well, as we mentioned, let's go back. As we mentioned on Tuesday, Tropical Storm Helene has postponed for the Florida A&M game, and that is now Hurricane Helene. Florida A&M Athletics announced back earlier this week that the football team's upcoming game against Alabama A&M, initially scheduled for this weekend, has been rescheduled due to the pending arrival of Hurricane Helene. I think to update that, Edward Waters has now canceled their football game as well. So thoughts and prayers to everybody in the path of that very dangerous storm. Definitely want to send our love and our thoughts and prayers in terms of making sure everybody comes through that hurricane safe. As you know, Dr. Bill, we went through this back in July here in Houston, and it can be a huge disruption in your life. So definitely.
Yeah, it's not fun at all. Certainly the weather has changed and created a whole nother dynamic for the fall football season, if you would. And we'll keep an eye on Bethune-Cookman, Alabama State. Hadn't heard updates on that as of yet, but could imagine that they may be issued in terms of the hurricane. With that being said, unless you have some additional news you want to talk about, let's talk about that for a minute, AD Drew and Charles. I'll get both of your opinions on this. You know, that means that you're going to kick this game back past traditionally when FAMU would end the season against Bethune-Cookman in the Florida Blue Florida Classic in terms of that game. And so now you have to prepare to play one more game, which means you even have a shorter time if you are Alabama A&M or FAMU for that matter. You have to be prepared to go right in and play a championship game. And similarly, you see a scenario where there were Waters out of the SIC in terms of their matchup. So any concerns in terms of that? I mean, now the SWAC has a couple of games. They've done that before, you know, with the Prairie View and Texas Southern had one time because of a hurricane had to kick their games to the end of the year. They actually did it twice. You've seen a couple of folks have scheduled beyond the traditional end of the year. So give me a little bit of your thoughts on that, Charles.
It could have huge implications. I mean, as of today, you know, we don't know as to whether that Alabama A&M, Florida A&M game could have just a lot riding on it. And you talk about the quick turnaround 6 days from that, and then SWAC championship, like right behind that. So these two teams as of today, they're, you know, right in the mix of things. So, and I was joking. I was like, I just really don't want to see Donovan Eaglin coming downhill at that time of the year. Alabama A&M's running back, but that you don't know as of today what implications it could have, but it could be huge in terms of really determining who is a player in the SWAC championship game.
Yeah, that's wow when you think about it like that. AD Drew, any additional comments you have on that? What are your thoughts in terms of having to obviously push this back? No other decision was really right other than to do that. But now that the decision has been made, what are your thoughts in terms of how this could play out at the end of the season?
Well, let's flip to the Division II teams. Tuskegee, Edward Waters. Now, originally that game was pushed back to Sunday, so that game has been delayed, canceled from what you guys are telling me, because I've been out and about all day, so I hadn't seen any updates.
Yeah, I know they pushed it to Sunday. I thought the last update I saw that they were looking at changing it, but let's verify. I think as I haven't noticed in terms of Sunday, even with that being said, with it changing from Saturday to Sunday, does that make too big of a change if it's just a one day versus at the end of the season?
Well, the biggest thing right now, not only for those two teams, but Morehouse, possibly Clark, Fort Valley, and Albany State, is the fact that because of the conditions, they aren't practicing. Because safety has to be the first thing, and of course nobody has an indoor facility. And even if you had an indoor facility, would you really want to have, would practice be the proper protocol in this time of the year? Now, Kentucky State travels to Albany State. That's another game we need to keep an eye on, depending on the path of this storm, with Albany State being so close to the Florida line. And Benedict travels to Atlanta to face Morehouse. They're not expecting as much, but even still, while the storm itself may not be of concern, storm surge and emergency personnel availability institutions will want to take away from other operations that would be going on that would take a much higher priority over this particular game. So that's something else that we need to keep an eye on. And Fort Valley travels across the state to Savannah State. Another game that we may probably need to keep an eye on based on the damage that these storms cause. And the reason I bring that up is because the SIAC does not have the luxury of that extra week. So if any one of these teams are in the hunt for the SIAC championship game, which is going to be the only ticket right now that the SIAC team would have to the Division II playoffs, it's going to really bring up an interesting scenario. But it's just not the SIAC. It's that whole region number 2 that may potentially, because the Gulf South is part of this region, and also, and there are a lot of Gulf South teams that are affected by this particular storm.
Charles, you want that?
Yeah, and I want to say I incorrectly reported that game has been postponed to Sunday. But one of the big things that we do have to take a look at is power outages. I mean, we know well how we dealt with that here in Houston back in July. So that's going to be have huge implications as to whether you even make the trip to wherever you're looking to go. So we just literally have to wait until this storm makes landfall to see, sort of the damage or the more than anything, the after effects, that might happen. So I think that's huge going forward. And as we've, kind of have CNN pulled up already, they're already reporting 200,000 people without power. And the storm is just making its way through now.
It's going to be something that we certainly have to keep our eyes on. The other thing that makes this the bigger issue, which is a small thing if you think about it, but now remember the kickoff game for the Black College Football Hall of Fame will feature the champions of the SIAC and CIAA. And that's a nice payday. So in terms of these matchups, as you said, Drew, and who will play in the championship game and maybe ultimately who wins it, now you're talking that to an additional level where that could change the formula in terms of who's playing in that championship game. And ultimately, if you play in the championship game, you have a chance to win. Now you're talking about a payday for the next fall as well, in terms of how you may be in a position, if you have to go to percentages, how that could affect who plays in the game.
And that's what I was going to bring up. You may have 3, 4, 5 teams because of the storm that may be a game short.
Right.
So, and I'm just reaching on this one. Maybe you look at, okay, you two can't match up, but let's look at common bye weeks and maybe, okay, Morehouse, you were supposed to play Benedict, but look at the common bye week. Hey, Fort Valley has a bye week that week, or somebody else has a bye week that way. Look, we just gonna have to flip this game, and so we can get this extra game in because you two just happen to have a common bye week. That may be a solution. Hey, I'm sorry, but y'all gonna have to play twice in order to get this game in. Something may have to be done to make up those games because once again, the SIAC does not have that luxury of the extra game, or they may force somebody to cancel a game against somebody else because conference games always take precedent. I've seen that happen before.
Yeah, that has happened. Great information and great thought process of what the commissioners and presidents ultimately have to be thinking about and being prepared for, and seeing what direction they want to make a decision. Hopefully it all works out, but we wanted to put it on the table for the business side of this and discussion of what that looks like. So let's take our first break. We'll come back on the other side and we'll talk about some key matchups. We'll start at that mid-major level because those are the only top matchups, if you would, featuring top-ranked teams out of the SIAC. So, out of the CIAA. The SIAC is looking at the top other than Clark, Atlanta. Who would have thought it? Oh, yeah, I did. The professor. We'll be right back after this first break.
Hey, grab me one too.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be.
You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel.
Yes!
That's how you waffle.
Mr. This Script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel.
A business big leaguer.
Go for key.
Even the ultimate pool float inflator.
With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true.
Gotta get the corners.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Charles and Drew, let's get into some of these top 10 matchups essentially. So you have two teams that are just outside of the top 7, and it's fascinating. Before I do this to you, I'd be remiss if I let you fall in this trap, because I did. Thanks to HBCU Game Day, Stephen Gaither, as they do on their D2 podcast, they saw when they were looking at the records for like Virginia Union, Virginia State, and even Bowie State for that matter, that they don't have a conference loss. Although they played in a game last week where they played two teams out of the what used to be the Southern Division, right? And they lost those games. They lost those matchups, which surprised many of us. And we talked about that when we released the polls, which is Johnson C. Smith. That's still number 1, right? AD Drew talked a little bit about this early in terms of St. Paul's and them not playing football this season. So
St. Augustine
teams have 7 games. So the way they decided to do it, there'll be some matchups, and they haven't released which ones they were. So that's why people kind of had to look and find it out. Or if we did, we missed it. And so some teams will play a game where it will count for one institution, i.e. Johnson C. Smith and Winston-Salem State, that are 1-0 in conference play, but not for other institutions, i.e. Virginia Union and Virginia State, who are still 0-0. But if that's not mattering enough, don't worry about it. At least I told you and you're aware. So don't think it's an error when we put up here that these teams are 0-0 in terms of conference play. Because technically they are either, although originally I put 0-1 just for your matchup. So I'll let you jump in this, Drew. But before we do that, let's look at this first matchup, which will feature Shaw, which is number 4. The Shaw Bears are 3-1, and they are 0-0 in terms of their conference matchup. You have just outside of the top 7, essentially number 8, Virginia Panthers, that are 1-2 on the season, and still 0-0 in CIAA play. I'm gonna go to you first, AD Juicy, up your dime in terms of your thoughts, and then get into the matchup on the second part of your commentary.
Dr. Cavil.
Hey man, I told you I wasn't gonna set you up.
This sounds so MEAC-ish. So MEAC-ish. Not only that they it's not that they did it, is that no one knows what they are doing and why. And I think what they did was, since some teams, I believe it was Lincoln of PA and someone else only had 7 conference opponents because of St. Aug was on their schedule, and I may have those wrong. But Fayetteville I know Fayetteville only had 7 conference games. What I think they did was count the last 7 games. Or if you filled in that Lincoln game with another CIAA opponent, that game is not going to count on your CIAA record. So I think what we need to do is go back and look at what Lincoln's schedule what St. Augustine's schedule would have been.
I'm so confused.
And that may give us you are absolutely correct. It is a 7-game conference schedule. Now, will anybody understand what you're talking about? No, but you're correct.
Which 7?
Not like Charles said. I'm just confused. Charles, don't worry about it. Just talk about the matchup when I get to you. And I'm gonna get to this matchup in a second. I'm going to do what I used to have to do with the SIAC, because you remember when the SIAC was split into divisions, and the game would count for the Western team, but not count for the Eastern team, and all that stuff. So what I used to do every year, I used to send an email to the conference office. Can you please send me the conference schedule so that I am not confused and I know when I'm talking about this stuff what is what. I need to send one to the CIAA office so that we can get this stuff. You forward it to us.
Oh, I will. So soon as the storm is over, that's going to be my next one of my top orders of business is making sure that I send this email to figure out what's going on. Anyway, getting back to the to the game at hand. I think this game is going to count. This game is going to go a long way in proving to everyone, are the Shaw Bears for real, or the Virginia Union Panthers coming back to the pack? Because, Virginia Union, Johnson C. Smith, I won't say dominated, but they handled Virginia Union this past week. So does Virginia Union have a chip on their shoulder, or is Shaw really that team that I saw beat Albany in that dramatic comeback in that fourth quarter? Saturday's going to prove it to us.
Good one. Charles, what do you say about this match?
I think Saturday, like AD said, that is a prove it to us game. And I like Shaw. I think they are that team. When you take a look at some of the pieces, Christian Peters, 15 of 23 last week, 4 touchdowns. They also had great balance. They had a running back go for over 100 yards. Receiver went for close to 100 yards. I think they got enough pieces to get it done because I just think that there's a reckoning going on in the CIAA where you see some of these teams that were in the old Southern Division, they come to get their lick back, and this is that year where it's starting to happen.
Well, Shaw Bears will certainly prove they're number 4 if they go on the road and do it to Virginia Union Panthers. Even though Virginia Union comes in at 1 and 2, I think it'll be a major statement. I'm gonna stick with you, Charles, and we're gonna go to our next top 10 matchup, featuring number 5 Fayetteville State Broncos that are 2-1 in terms of their matchup, 1-0 in the conference play. They are at Virginia State Trojans. They came off the road with a loss, but obviously in terms of the way the records we just explained, trust us, it doesn't count until we get further notice. They're 1 and 2 overall and 0-0 in the conference play. What do you think of this matchup with Virginia State that fell out of the top 7 this week, but they're still one of those top 10 teams, if you will. So this is number 5 versus number 9.
And I still think they're one of those teams that we'll see ascend during the course of the season. Defensively, Cameron Davis, he anchors things down from that defensive line spot. I think this is a big bounce back for Virginia State, although Fayetteville State is explosive. Last time we saw them against Elizabeth City State, they may put up 37 points, but I think Virginia State gets it done in this game. They defend the home turf.
Good stuff, AD Drew. As Charles is acting bad right now. What are your thoughts on this matchup between number 5 and number 9?
Traditionally, we've seen Fayetteville State be one of those people who are hanging around at the end of the year. Obviously, coming out of the South, they were last 5-6 years they won the South. So for Fayetteville State not to have that, I guess, that soft schedule as they have had in their minds in the past to rely on to get back to the championship game, this is going to be a big game against the team who all the other coaches and SIDs in the CIAA said was going to win it. Well, Winston-Salem State already told you last week that they got something to say about that, although it didn't count.
Yeah, you're right.
At least on paper, but it damn sure counted psychologically. So, yeah. So I believe Fayetteville is at home in this particular matchup. Do I have that correct, Dr. Cavil?
No,
State at home.
It's actually in Rogers
State's
State in Petersburg, so Virginia State is at home.
Yeah, Virginia State's at home.
Okay, so State is at home. It's gonna be really tough. Fayetteville, they're probably actually happy that they're traveling up that way because now they've got a little bit of a better chance. Because although I just saw on the Weather Channel that now they're talking about storm warnings in Virginia now, so who knows what's going to be going on this weekend with these games, man. I think this weekend is going to favor whatever team has the best run game, and that's in both these matchups that we've just talked about.
I like that in terms of really considering the weather, in terms of who can get the running game going and hold on to that ball. Let's look at a couple of other matchups. These matchups are not our featured matchups because they only feature one team with the ranking, but they're conference play. And they go to the major division. And at this space, it's fascinating because one of them is an early game that we usually don't get in terms of the MEAC. But before we get that, we have number 2 Grambling State Tigers that have ascended to number 2 after what some saw as an upset, particularly if you look at the ranking numbers. So number 2 Grambling State that is 3-1. They played their first conference game. They play against Prairie View that has played 2 conference games that have fallen to 1-3 after overtime loss to Southern 0-2. Fascinating about this matchup. I'm intrigued. Your thoughts in terms of Grambling looking really good against Jackson State, but is this one of those years where you're just going to find these weekends where you're trying to grapple with a team, see where they are, and then a team, similar to what you kind of see in the NFL sometimes, when it seems like the team that is much more desperate or really in the need for a win finds a way to get it? Or is this Grambling State, as Charles said, Grambling just doesn't stay down too long. They haven't won a conference championship. It's been their longest term since they haven't done that. Are they going to take that next step to say, no, we're going to be the team that looks like we want to show that we're coming out of the West Division to play for a championship? Charles, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, I guess I go back to last week, and the question for me is, did Grambling look really good, or did Jackson State fumble and throw the game, in arrears? 2 picks, one that won for a pick six, scoop and score fumble. That created scores for Grambling. But when you look at it statistically, Jackson State out gained them from an offensive standpoint. So still questions with regards to Grambling and their offensive output. Do we see that Miles Crowley this upcoming weekend? My question for Prairie View, their backs are up against the wall. You got to figure out a way to get the ball into the playmaker's hands. When you have the Shamar Savage, I said it Tuesday, you better figure out a way to get the ball to Kobe Cavil because he's lightning in a bottle. You got to figure out a way to get the ball in his hands. And the way I think the SWAC is really set up is just wacky. I think Prairie View gets the win in the Cotton Bowl this weekend.
Yeah, and just throws everybody shade out of everybody. It's like, oh, not so fast, as they would say. AD Drew, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Just think about it. Prairie View to win that game last week. Clock management coming down the stretch. Should have got maybe another 5 to 7 yards if they would have ran their plays correctly. So Prairie View could very easily have won that game against Southern, and we'd be talking about Southern like we're talking about Prairie View, except for one thing. And that one thing is Prairie View is 2 down in the West. Another loss by Prairie. How you say it, Charles? Go ahead and introduce yourself to the basketball coach.
It becomes basketball season real quick. Yeah.
You can't even get out September.
Real quick. And as good as Prairie View basketball is, that's not a hard sell.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, let's switch over to this MEAC matchup. Fascinating here. Norfolk State surprised pretty much everybody with their non-conference win over VMI. So they're 2-3. They had some tough losses. They won the Hampton, but we're seeing that Hampton is pretty good in terms of at least their early part of their schedule. But they play against number 4, North Carolina Central Eagles, that just exploded. Put a Route 66 shirt going around in Durham and Raleigh over there as they beat up on North Carolina A&T, as they like to say, the school down the highway, particularly for Joshua Sims Sr. They're 2-2. But this one counts in terms of the conference race, and with just 5 games, every game counts. You talk about a team that can make a major statement, neutral site, Lucas Oil Stadium for the Circuit City Classic in Indianapolis. Drew, what are your thoughts?
Who was the preseason conference player of the year in the MEAC? Help me out with the name.
Otto Kings?
And he's back.
Okay, just check.
Otto Coombs. Oh, guess what? We may have an Otto Coombs sighting this week.
Yes.
Because
yeah.
Since 4 games are now over.
Lest you not forget.
The best thing that can happen. Yes. Best thing that can happen for Norfolk, they went 2-2 without Otto Coombs. So, but how sharp will Otto Coombs be? Has he been practicing? Has he been allowed to practice during the suspension? So that's one thing that we do not know. But I think because of that unknown, we really have no clue as to what we are going to get, especially when you consider a Central team that has looked like one extreme to the other. They have looked good in their 2 wins. They have looked garbage in their 2 losses. So I am really interested in this matchup to see who's going to get this early lead in the Big Eastern Athletic Conference.
Good stuff, Charles.
The question for me with North Carolina Central is there a little A&T hangover after, big rivalry win? You put up 66 points on a rival. You put the Dusty Rose elbow on.
Mike was here. He said that was a French's chicken tailgate special.
Yeah. I mean, they thumped them. I mean, it was convincing. It turned my head last week to Norfolk State whooped VMI convincingly. 37 points. And they did it through the air. When you take a look at Jalen Daniels going 20-29, 277 yards, 3 touchdowns. They got a receiver, Jaquez Jones. He can go get it. And now you add the preseason MEAC Offensive Player of the Year back to the mix. Does he get some run this weekend? I'm going to go with Central, but just by that much. I just like Jamari Taylor. I still like the way the Central runs the ball, and we know they'll play some defense.
Yeah, I know in that part it's Bojangle boxes. With that being said, Charles, sticking with you, Jackson State, number 6, Jackson State Tigers. They fall a couple of spots after an impressive win over Southern, but they go on the road in those old demons from the Grambling. Eddie Robinson Stadium found a way to sneak their way around there and just muck it up enough where they fumbled the ball away with turnovers and interceptions as well. But they played Texas Southern, a pesky team that this would give people a lot of indication that Texas Southern for real. I think people kind of turned their eye just a little bit about the way they played Lamar, but they ended up losing. So people was like, well, did Texas Southern just Texas Southern? With that being said, Charles, what are your thoughts on this matchup? I know in this way, both schools your alma mater, so you don't lose, as I say it.
Right.
As being a Tiger in terms of your undergrad, in some ways, this kind of has to make a lot of the Tiger fans over there in Jackson a little nervous.
Yeah, I think it should. But I think the blessing in disguise is you got humbled last week. You come off the good tidings of beating a rival in Southern, and you got humbled last week. So now you focus in a little bit more on this Texas Southern team that isn't a Texas Southern team that we've seen in previous years. I think they are a very, very physical football team. And that's one of the things I was talking actually to the strength and conditioning coach today. He was like, we got some hosses up front. So they're going to have to put on their hard hat and be ready to play some football. I think if you're Jackson State, you load the box and make them throw the football. Only 10 attempts for Texas Southern last week against Lamar. So that remains to be seen whether they can actually throw the ball downfield. I think that plays in Jackson State's advantage because, they'll have eight guys right around the line of scrimmage, 9 at times to try to stop the run. I think it'll be a great game, but I think Jackson State comes out and gets the victory.
Yeah, it was fascinating on that. Also going to you, AD Drew, is Texas Southern, when they cut down on those penalties, I think they had like 2, less than a handful against Prairie View. They play some really good football. When they let it get away with you, particularly in that second half against Lamar, even though it's on the road, it's a tough place, they couldn't get it done. They're at home. Can they play the style where they're really disciplined and really give fits to Jackson State? Or will Jackson State make the corrections and come back really focused, particularly for both teams? For Jackson's first conference game, even though they played Grambling, and Texas Southern going in their second one.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Cavil, as Jackson State continues its Eye of the Tiger tour, battling Grambling State last week and now Texas Southern this week, for both these teams, it really is going to come down to, kind of like you said, Dr. Cavil, who's going to play the cleanest game? Yeah. We've seen when Texas Southern plays a clean game, they can play. They can play some ball, be competitive, and be in a position to win the game. We've seen when Jackson State plays a clean game, they were worthy of that number 2 ranking that they had last week, going into last week, when they play a clean game. When they don't play a clean game, neither one of these teams has the talent to overcome penalties, fumbles, turnovers, all the other stuff that are associated with the game that's not clean.
Absolutely.
And in addition to a questionable call or a miscalculation of a play offensively or defensively by one of the play callers. So whichever one of these teams play as close to a perfect game for them, given their style, that's going to be the winner in this particular game, because both teams are going to like to control the ball on the ground. So if you're going to one of these this game looking for somebody to put up 400 yards passing, please save your money and go somewhere else.
Yeah, and that brings up another point, actually, the health of the quarterbacks. Whether you're talking about Cameron McCoy for Jackson State or KJ Cooper for Texas Southern, will they be available or will they not be available? So that remains to be seen.
I'm glad you brought that up. With that, we'll take our second break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll focus on some ranked teams that are playing unranked teams. We'll look at a little bit of the independents and give you some key MEAC matchups against non-conference foes as well. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this second break.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be.
You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel.
Yes!
That's how you waffle.
Mr. This script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel.
A business big leaguer.
Go for key.
Even the ultimate pool float inflator.
With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true. Gotta get the corners.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted CAVIL'S voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. CAVIL'S Voice, CAVIL'S Voice, CAVIL'sVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
Troy, you work here? I'm never not working. Like Head and Shoulder Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working. Head and Shoulder Scalp Shield. Never not working.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We have AD Drew and Charles Bishop. I want both of you to talk about this team. This is the number one ranked team. They ascended to it this Sunday when we did our announcements, as we now move to Sunday with our announcement of the major division. With that being said, there are 4 other games which feature top 5 teams, and I'll let you pick the one that you want to talk about of the remaining 4. The first one to look at is number 1 Hampton Pirates, William and Mary Tribe. Then I'll let you pick from one of these 4, which is number 5 Morgan State Bears, 2-2 on the season. They're on the road to Stony Brook Seawolves. You have number 7 Howard Bison that are 2-2, and they're at Princeton Tigers that are 0-1. I should have said Stony Brook Seawolves are 3-1 and 1-0 in the Colonial, now named the Coastal CAA. You also have an intriguing one here in North Carolina A&T, 1-3, 0-1. They go on the road to a former rival in terms of a conference game. Number 8, South Carolina State Bulldogs that are 1-2. And then you have Charleston Southern Buccaneers 1-2. They're at number 9, Tennessee State Tigers that are 2-2. And that is a matchup between the Big South and OVC partnership. Charleston Southern out of the Big South part of that, and Tennessee State, as you know, out of the OVC. Let's go back to the first one that I want you to both talk about. And I'm going to go to you first, Drew. That is Hampton. The number 1 Hampton Pirates are 3-1. William and Mary Tribe they are at 3-1. Is this the year that Hampton not only gets off to a great start, but they sustain it? Many of you probably recall mid-major a couple of weeks ago, we had Johnson C. Smith. People were talking about, they ascended to number 1, and they were excited, and they were thinking about they wouldn't stay there. Well, hell, it's 3 weeks, and they're still there. Can Hampton do it at least for a second consecutive week? Probably a really tough test. Conference game. William Mary Tribe is 3-1, just like the Pirates. AD, what do you say about this matchup?
No. I'm sorry about the pregnant pause there, but no, I think Hampton's rise to the top will be short-lived. Hampton, although they showed improvement last year when competing in the CAA, they're competing against a William and Mary team. Hampton last year won the games they were supposed to win in the CAA. Well, they weren't supposed to win any games, let's be real. But they won the games they could have won last year and lost the games they should have lost. Until Hampton shows in the CAA that they can win a game that they are not supposed to win, they are going to be considered second, third tier in that particular conference. And let's really look at the competition that Hampton has for that 3-1. Yes, they beat a very good Virginia Union team. They beat a Norfolk who was down and out. And then they beat Howard. That's just one of those ones for Hampton. They just go through and put the W on the schedule when they beat Howard every year. So
with the loss,
no offense to any of those teams,
which everybody thought was impressive, but we shall see.
Yeah. So no offense to all those teams, but they really haven't proven that 3-1 record. That's all I'm going to say about that. But by default, because everybody else is doing so bad at FCS, I think this number 1 this week is by default. Get a victory here against William and Mary, then we can say they've earned the number 1 rank.
Week, Charles, you agree, or is Hampton Pirates going to surprise the world and be like, no, we're number 1, and really throw an apple court early in this MEAC SWAC Challenge Celebration Bowl? Everybody kind of wanted this twist of fate. We got it early. Can they push it down for at least a second week?
Well, that remains to be seen, at least for a second week. But I think to AD Drew's point, they won the games that you kind of expected them to win, but this has to be a head turn game. And what I do like is they do maul you up front. They got some nice running backs when you're talking about Jaquan Snipes or you're talking about Elijah Burris in terms of their ability to run the football. But yeah, until you get some of these type wins, then we can start really kind of paying attention to Hampton Pirate football, especially when you take a look at the offseason. For them to start 3-1, a huge feather in that cap. Looks like they got the program moving in the right direction. But playing a William Mary, this is the type of win that you would need to have for everybody to kind of start really paying attention to them.
Great point. I love the point that Champ D 10-12. That's Dave, and he does the Wednesday edition yesterday as now with the Independents, and he had both of the Pirates on that just couldn't wait to get on as they did what they did to Howard. But they made sure he understood how they felt about the way that North Carolina Central did it. They ran the segment long, and he kept trying to get out of that segment. And they just found a way to keep just all day. He trying to move. And he was good about it. He was smart. He's like, we're not going to end on that comment. So he had to spin it back around. But I love what Dave does as the host and giving us some insight on the independent, all serious notes. And we have Brandon King, who's can't wait to get on Wednesdays to talk about Tennessee State. The problem he may have, if he waits too late, he might not have anything good to say about Tennessee.
Tempo, yeah.
So, Dave, get to stepping. With that being said, shout out to my man Dave getting it done with that, because he talked about the fact that Hampton did give Richmond their only loss in the CAAA last year, and that was a really good Richmond team. So the problem is this one is also on the road, Walters, Zabel, Williamsburg, Virginia. So it'll be interesting when you think about what that looks like. Let's get in these next four. You pick one. Charleston Southern Buccaneers at number 9, Tennessee State Tigers 2-2. A&T at number 8, South Carolina State Bulldogs. Number 7, Howard Bison against Princeton. And number 5, Morgan State Bears 2-2 against Stony Brook Seawolves. Charles, what are your thoughts in terms of one of those four? Where are you going?
I'm going to go to Orangeburg. I think it's the home opener, if I'm not mistaken, for South Carolina State.
Yes, it is.
And when you got a bully that's injured, you start whooping on him. And right now, A&T is the injured bully. And
this is the coach that said he wants to kill a fly with a sledgehammer.
Exactly. So that all the other flies can see. And this would be a nice feather in the cap for South Carolina State. But when you talk about the run that North Carolina A&T had from 2015 through the time they left the MEAC, I mean, now everybody gets to put their paws on them now, and you see what's happened. 6 points last week. I think South Carolina State is ready to drop another Dusty Rose elbow this weekend.
Yeah, you go from the beak pecking you to death. Now you go to another paw. This time it looks like the bigger dog may be the Bulldogs versus those Aggies and what some people are now calling the Pound Puppets. That's not.
Ooh, ouch.
AD Drew, what is your next one of these four?
I've been there.
Although I would love to talk about former Albany State coach Gabe Giardina at Charleston Southern taking on Tennessee State, I have to go with the Battle of the Nerds, Howard and Princeton. So, and this really has nothing to do with the game of football. When I look at this matchup, anytime Howard plays one of these Ivy League schools, they played Harvard last year. I believe they played Princeton 2 or 3 years ago. So this is not the first time that these two teams have met. But every time Howard has gone to play one of these Ivy League schools, it has not been a good outcome for Howard. Right. And I'm probably supposed to step out of bounds when I say this, but maybe Howard could beat Princeton and convince some of those folks to vote for an alum of Howard.
Let's do it. Let's take our last break. Come back on the other side. We'll give you the bonus game, the best of the rest, and we'll let them pick a game among those best of the rest games, folks that are not ranked in the mid-major, major division, and see what they're talking about. We will give you 3 of them in the major to include those and see if they'll say any of them will be upset. I think both of them will say, let's get on to the next matchup, but they'll have their choice of those. With that being said, let's take our last break and come back on the other side.
At Automasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And tell him Sonia sent you.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil's inside the HBCU Sports Lab. I'm going to give you these three teams that are ranked, and you tell me which one of them or any of them have a chance of an upset. I think the way you're going to go, maybe Bowie State can wake up the ghost of Coach Wilson's past. It seems like it's getting longer and longer. But you have number one Johnson C. Smith Bulls that are 4-0, 1-0 in conference play. They are on the road at Bluefield State Big Blue at 0-2. You have number 2 Clark Atlanta Panthers that are also on the road, 3-0, 2-0. Lane Dragons always play you hard, and they tough at home. Maybe that's the one. 1-2, 1-1. Drew did talk about the weather and let you know that may play a role. They are the only top 3 team in the mid-major that's on the road. You have the Bowie State Bulldogs, 1-2. They go on the road to number 3 Winston-Salem State Rams. They're the 3-1. Of these three, any one of them you think will give some problems? Charles?
I'm going to pay attention to actually Clark and Lane because there's got to be a hangover after you whoop a SWAC team the way they did 55-yard field goal. And then you are they going to Memphis? I'm sorry,
it is in Jackson.
Jackson, Tennessee. So
only top 3 teams.
No, it's in Memphis.
Oh, it's
in Memphis though. Yes, okay, Clark and they're playing that game at some high school in Memphis.
Okay. That one intrigues me. I mean, it's not anything Lane is doing that really jumps out at me, but just the fact that you're coming off a huge road win, and now you go on the road to play a conference foe. Let's see if Clark kind of carries momentum going forward.
And to your point, as I asked you, Drew, while Clark Atlanta has shown they can do it offense, they've been incredible, finding ways to win. It has come down to the stretch and big plays at the end. And as you said, you talk about the 55-yard field goal to take down the FCS Bethune-Cookman of the SWAC. Amazing for everybody. But you can score them. AD Drew, any thoughts on this matchup?
What's going to happen when either somebody remembers how to play defense in the second half against Clark Atlanta, or let's flip that, when Clark Atlanta learns how to get off to a hot start, because Clark Atlanta has not gotten off to a hot start in any of their contests this season. Although they're averaging over 40 points a game, they have gotten off to slow starts, and they have been, I don't know what they put in the Kool-Aid or the Gatorade at halftime, what kind of protein bars they're eating at halftime, but whatever it is, they need to continue to do it, but they need to do it pregame also. So that's what I'm looking for. But if there's one team that I think may be able to play with Clark, Lane with their running game, especially.
Yeah, that's true. Control the clock.
Yeah.
Ike Brown back there running the ball.
Ike Brown.
Lane. Yeah. You've got to keep that offense on the sideline, because you know that you can score on defense. I mean, you know you can score against their defense. Yeah.
Good stuff there. Can I sell either one of you on the Bowie State Bulldogs taking down number 3 Winston-Salem State Rams on the road?
No.
Drew?
You can only sell me on that game if Bowie wins it.
All right, bonus one. This is the last one, and we'll call it a show. These are the matchups. These are not ranked teams, so don't get mad at me because I'm calling them out, but you got to choose one of them. Benedict Tigers, 1-2, 1-1. Morehouse Maroon Tigers, 1-3, 1-1. Morehouse says, hey, we got to win really early in the season already. Kentucky State Thoroughbreds, maybe they've taken the place of Morehouse. They're 0-4 and 0-2. And Albany State Golden Rams are desperately want to get back into it with that surprise loss they had early. I don't think that would be a problem, but they're 1-2, 1-1. Jumping back to the major division, you got Delaware State Hornets. Can they turn it back on and show that, hey, we can take that next step? Will they be the ones that get the win of the CIAA with the Campbell Fighting Camels that are just 1-3, 0-2 in terms of their conference record? You got Alabama State Hornets 1-2, Bethune-Cookman Wildcats 0-4. Both teams desperately want to win. Alabama State has to go on the road if they want to start people thinking about what they said earlier in terms of being the preseason favorite. They got to get this done. Bethune-Cookman would like none other thing to start out conference play with a win. Fort Valley State Wildcats 1-2, 1-1. Savannah State Tigers are 1-2, 1-1. Somebody is going to get a win in conference play. Livingston Bluebears 2-2, 0-1. Lincoln, Pennsylvania Lions are struggling 0-3, 0-1. And then we go down to Mississippi. Some people call this a rival game. Some people say not so much. I like the fact that the two head coaches come from the same area and are really fond of one another in terms of big brother, little brother. Will the big brother Braves continue to do what they do to the little brother Delta Devils? Braves are 1-3, 0-0. Mississippi Valley State, Delta Devils 0-4, 0-0. Tuskegee Tigers just are frustrating everybody. AD Drew told everybody that if you looked at the schedule, perception was that Tuskegee Tigers had the easiest schedule. Good thing is they've only played one conference game. So they're 0-3, 0-1, but they played Edgewater Waters Tigers. They played on the Thursday night last week. This moves to Sunday, so they got a little long to stew on the fact that they had a game that they thought won, and all of the loss they don't believe was directly attributed to them, which it will be interesting to see. Can they get off the mat 1-3, 1-1? Of those matchups, Charles, pick one and tell me what's your thoughts.
I think the one that really interests me the most is Delaware State at Campbell. I think that's interesting. The Delaware State has a running back, Jaden Sutton. He's averaging almost 6 yards a carry. Offensive line is look pretty decent, although the quarterback has been hit quite a few times. Marquis Adams is looking a little better from a passing standpoint. So that one actually intrigues me. And Doc, for nostalgia reasons and the fact that Mississippi Valley is opening up new turf, scoreboard, that'll be a fun one with Mississippi Valley and Alcorn.
Yeah, but you're not going to jump out on a ledge with Delta Devils? You're not going to go that far?
You know what? I'm going to take the Delta Devil.
There it is. Hey, Mike, wake up, Mike. Going to be like, what?
You coaxed it out of me.
He said, be quiet. Don't say that too loud. Eddie Drew, which direction you going to
go? Thanks to Charles for not leaving no meat on the bone, because not only did he took both games that I was considering, so I'm like, okay.
Hopefully you're not hungry.
No, I mean, let me go ahead and get me a piece of bread, because that's all Charles left me with some breadcrumbs.
I just knew you were going to Tuskegee. I just assumed.
Why? They haven't shown anything this year.
I thought I was going to give him a little cheat code and let him do Morehouse.
Yeah.
I got to stay away from that game.
You're correct.
I'll go with this one. Miles Allen.
Nice.
I think I'll go with that one. Allen being at home, Miles going across. Both of them 0-1 in the conference. If I do have my records correct, Coach Sam Shade over there at Miles is another team that we thought was going to be in contention for the SIAC championship. Got off to a poor start. And Allen still is a team that's trying to prove that they were not all Teddy Keaton and David Wright last year, that they still have some talent left there in Columbia, South Carolina. So since that's the only thing that's left in the refrigerator, that's what I'm going to have to go with.
You say Big Brother took all the food. Well, go ahead.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's the only thing left in the refrigerator.
All right, with that being said, we're going to call it a show. We want to say thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock and Sunday at 9. When we do the major division of L, remember we moved the mid-major to Tuesday. Look forward. We're going to try to give you a show tomorrow, Friday, with give you an update what that looks like. So stick on to see if we can do that for you. Also, Saturday, you have Carlos Brown as he does his updates. He will be digging a little bit of sweat coming off his Browns after what happened down in Prairie View, but he'll smile just a little bit more with able to come out with the victory. With that being said, don't forget Sunday, as I said, we'll start you off, and then Sports Wrap with Brian will kick it off that evening in terms of getting it done there with Walker providing you a little love. With that being said, follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's DrKenyattaCavil on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Eddie Drew may give a surprise visit on his own show with Sports Wrap as Jamie Walker is standing in for him, but you never know. Eddie Drew may have a nugget that he has to drop, and he certainly will do that. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1, that is Twitter. I say it because I can. Facebook is inside the HBCU Sports Lab as well as YouTube. Dream big and continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Drew?
Lecture.
Dismiss.
Stay safe.
Be safe out there, everybody. Pray for those in the path of this storm.
Amen.
Travel light.